Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back once again to the DANCNG SOBR podcast. Thank you so much for listening. These episodes are free. All that I'm asking you now is to please hit the like button. Hit the like button right now before this thing starts. And if you listen to it and you don't like it, hit the unlike button after. But just please hit the like button right now before this whole thing gets started. If you don't want to hit like, you could also go to the Venmo and send me something at DANCNG SOBR. That's at DANCNG SOBR, just like the way the podcast is spelt. Thank you so much to our studio sponsor, Espacio 1839, for allowing us to do the podcast in here. That's Espacio1839.com. But for this episode, we are going to go step outside. This episode was recorded outside on the rooftop of Eastside Luv, trying to catch the sunset. I hope it came out. With the owner of Eastside Luv, Guillermo Uribe. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the DANCNG SOBR podcast. And once again, we are out here outside of Eastside Luv. About a year ago, we recorded this, Willie and I, and something happened to the files because of my stupid GoPros, but took us a long time to come back and do it again. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest this week is Guillermo Willie Uribe.
It's our anniversary. Sounds like our
We should do this once a year out here. Look, I brought you flowers.
You got to keep it going. Oh, these are nice. These look familiar.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, so Guillermo, owner, operator of the...
Operator for sure.
Of the... of the Eastside Luv bar over here in Boyle Heights. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me again.
It's a fucking honor, honestly, because ever since the first time that I met you here, like we've always just had conversation after conversation. We've always like just sat and talked for hours. Of course, you're here, yeah. And I'd come here and hang out back when I was drinking. But you always like just fucking are good to like talk with. You know what I mean? So I really I've always enjoyed our time. Even when I stopped drinking, I would come in while you were closed and just come in here and chat with you for like an hour.
Yeah.
And people saying hi outside. And yeah, it's always fun to talk to you, man. So I appreciate that from you.
I was going to say, I think I started to put the, Heineken 00 or O'Doul's at the time was because you stopped drinking. Yeah. I mean, I didn't ever carry non-alcoholic beer until you started asking for it. And we still have them now. Should I get you?
Yeah, let's do it.
Should I get you one of these?
That's when I started the... I would have the O'Doul's micheladas.
That's right.
So that I didn't look like a goofy, guy with a non-alcoholic beer. I was like, I'll just put it in the michelada and I'll look normal around all these people.
That's what you think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as normal as I can look.
All right. We might as well do bar stuff.
Yeah,
we're on top of the roof of a bar, so.
Yeah, so we're out here. If you don't know the area, this is Boyle Heights. This is First Street, East First Street, and Vicente Fernandez Street. And they just named that street that. And salud to Willie and all the years here at Eastside Luv.
Okay, now we could do this.
Let's move these out of the way. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about you. Let's start from the beginning like we always do here. Tell us a little bit about I know. We can get through it quickly if you want. No, tell us a little bit about like where you grew up and stuff. Like what was Little Willie like? Did they used to call you Little Willie?
They just call me Willie. Little was, I was always a little guy, pretty much the smallest guy in my class. So I don't think it was almost like, hey, there goes, Fat Joe or whatever. It's like, hey, it's just Joe, dude. Like, stop insulting the guy. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, so born right here, White Memorial.
Yeah.
Came into this realm on Cesar Chavez or Brooklyn back then. And my parents, let's see, what was there? They had a little apartment right here on Chelsea, right off of Soto. I don't remember very much of it. Pretty much like my toddler days. But I see photographs of the great times that we had there.
Nice.
in our Boyle Heights existence. And then eventually my parents bought a house in Baldwin Park. And so we, after that, lived mostly on the 10 freeway.
Wow.
Traffic, going back and forth because both of my parents continue to work in East LA. My dad in Monterey Park, but my mom over at my uncle's sewing factory on Floral, Benignas, my tias.
Yeah.
And so we, like I was coming to, my grandmother was watching my older brother and I. She lived over at the Maravilla projects. And so she, both my parents always worked. So she took care of us since, we were infants. And so we wandered around a lot around the projects.
The days of wandering over there.
And all that.
You're definitely around still when Floral Drive-In was there, right?
Yeah. So, we'd go to Floral Drive-In and had that experience, mostly East Los Angeles, county life, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I started my school career at Riggin Elementary School for a year, and then we went to Soledad, like the Catholic school, for about another year. And then after that, once we were old enough to, fend for ourselves, we stood back in Baldwin Park, and my brother and I would walk to school. It was a few blocks away, and we'd walk to our Little League practices and kind of were on our own, 70s latchkey kids.
Real quick, going back a little bit to when you're over here on the Floral area and stuff, what do you remember the most that is not there anymore that you probably miss?
Well, right across, our view, I guess, was mostly across the street from my uncle's shirt factory, which there was it was just a big giant field of red bricks. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
I guess they made bricks there. And the Floral Drive-In, I'm saying that's visually the biggest difference, where now there's all, a nice
corporate
hill,
drive,
and there's all the corporate stuff. I really.
Did you guys used to go up there and run around there? Were you able to? Or
ride bikes? Yeah, we take our little BMX bikes up there, and we thought we were in the
of course.
forest or
Fucking
something,
badass,
somewhere, going to the wash and that kind of stuff. And but another little iconic spot that I just drove by the other day, and it's not there anymore. I mean, it's still there as a liquor store. I think it's a little market, but there was a liquor store on the corner of Mednick and Floral called Salud. And so I just have that in my head, that vision. So when I drove by there the other day,
still there, right?
It's still there, but they kind of covered the octagons. Each letter had an octagon, and that was an adventure for us to go from my grandmother's house to that liquor store, and that was just our little path. So I have really good memories of just kind of wandering around there, that little 7-Eleven and whatnot. But other than that, it looks pretty much exactly the same. I mean, I wish. There's a handball
because on
court.
this side of the street, nothing has changed. On the same street, the same side of the street.
Nothing has changed. Well, I mean, there is those he's got neighbors. The brush factory expanded, and so they developed those empty lots. But I mean, other than that, what else? Oh, I was gonna say, right across from where my grandmother lived was, I don't know if you've ever heard of Michi's liquor store that has the handball court. They've designated it as a historic site. They fought to preserve it because they wanted to knock it down and do all that stuff. And so I just drove by there recently too, and I hadn't been by there in a long time, but I just really have really fond memories of that family, and that little liquor store. And because we were so close to it, I was just constantly being sent to get whatever my uncle or my grandmother wanted and whatnot. And just seeing
back when they could send you to the store to get cigarettes and beer.
You go get cigarettes, get kawama. My tio wants a kawama.
Yeah, exactly.
So eventually that was to our benefit when we got old enough, and we blame everything on our tio. We go get our own beer and go to the handball courts and
So, you went to high school out in Baldwin Park then?
I went to high school. I went to high school in Rosemead to Don Bosco.
You went to Don Bosco.
I went to Don Bosco. I went down that path. All my friends went to Bishop Amant from there, in La Puente.
Are they rivals?
Who?
Bishop Amant and Don
no.
Bosco.
I think the rival was Cantwell.
Okay.
That's what I remember. I don't know why we were rivals. I have no idea. We didn't have a football team back then, so it wasn't like we were part of that, aggressive.
Yeah.
Sport. But anyhow, so I went to Don Bosco, and I got that. I really felt like a lot of friends that applied didn't get in, and I got in, and everyone was really hyping up that school. My older brother went to Bishop Amant. All my friends went there, so that's where I was going to go. But my parents wanted me to take that test, and I did. I was never really into I wasn't I know all the answers. Yeah, I was never really that great at school. I was more of a daydreamer, and so I got in. Somehow or other, I passed the test, and they accepted me, and they didn't accept kids in my class. And, you know, I kind of felt like everyone was, like, really hyping that up. And my parents were like, hey, you don't have to if you don't want to. It's an all-boys school, and all your friends are going over here. But give it a try, you know, and see if you don't like it, don't worry about it. You go to the other school.
Yeah, their fingers crossed.
Yeah, so I did. I went there, and I felt like, okay, I'm going to give it to this year. If I don't like it, or if it's too whatever, it's not for me, I'm going to transfer. 1 year had passed, and, you know, it's like, okay, I'm going to do one more year. And then eventually, like, I have really good friends there, and we're having a great time. I'm getting, I guess, a pretty decent education. I'm getting a trade. I had a construction major.
No way.
Yeah, and that's and I've always liked that. I've always liked,
like, high school had a construction major.
Yeah, it was kind of like going to trade tech, I guess. Wow. In high school.
So it also had like the management of it and the project management side of it, or
not so much. It was more like learning electrical, learning plumbing, learning
the hands-on stuff.
Yeah, all the hands-on stuff. And but like, you know, while you were there, I remember them really like hyping up the fact that like we've got all kinds of partnerships with industry. And so when you get out of here, and I'm sure at some point that was more true than it was when I graduated, because I had to go find my own job eventually. And in construction, because the fifth year you graduate with a AS degree, but the second semester you're working. You got to go find a job. And well, I was like, well, where's that job that I was supposed to get and all that stuff? And I ended up going and finding a job in Hacienda Heights, and I just seen the construction site, walked up to it, and I worked as a laborer for a couple years. Wow! And like really quickly realized, like, holy shit, I'm working with a 15-year-old over here that, you know,
just came from
Mexico, and we're doing the exact same thing. And then, you know, so I really learned like a really good work ethic at that time too. It was really hard work, you know, just working in the sun.
But when you're young,
but at some point,
fun, dude.
It was fun. It was good. It was a good time, and I really learned a lot. But I also at that time realized like started making the connection. All of my shop teachers were probably 40 with broken backs, and so I kind of realized really
that's quickly, why they were teaching. Yeah,
I can't go down that path. I don't want to be a teacher over there. I don't want to teach shop. And so I kind of did that for a couple of years, started my own little business within that, got a taste of like entrepreneurship, doing like piecework. But eventually I realized like I've got to get back to school. And I went back to school, and now I'm like, I skip a lot about, you know, being young, but I'm saying like,
that's cool too.
Yeah. I got my degree and followed that path. Yeah. All paths that kind of like I felt were, I always questioned like, why am I doing this? Like,
so, how did you get to, because I know you got a degree in engineering, right?
Yeah.
And how did you get from like the high school? What drove you to like the Army Corps?
Because everyone from my shop was like applying to Cal Poly Pomona or other engineering, you know, schools that that had that focus. And so I just did what everyone else was doing, you know, and that's what your counselor is telling you to do.
Where did you go?
I went to Cal Poly Pomona.
Cal Poly, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, I went to every damn school
in the area.
Between because I went to Trade Tech, I went to ERICK, I went to Mount Sac. I went to whatever was convenient, like whatever I was doing at the time. But so yeah, I went and I got my degree, and I took the long cut because I was going part-time. And so it took me 8 years to get my 4-year, or really a 5-year degree. And so I just went down that path, and it just one thing just kept leading to another. I got a job, and they gave me all kinds of responsibilities. Started managing construction projects, and just did that for as long as I could. And until one point, I just was like, all right, I've had enough. I want to go do my own thing, because I had always thrown parties as a teenager in East LA, and I got a taste of making money at a young age, I guess.
Let's go back to that a little bit then. How old were you when you started to like promote? That's 15. What we used to call it, right? We were promoters back then.
The very first party I had was in the parking lot of my uncle's shirt factory. Oh, yeah. I remember I gave him $100, and he did me the favor. I thought I was paying him a lot of money, and went to Lion Printing and made one of those flyers with like 1 million like
different kinds of
groups, 1 million DJs, probably half of them that I didn't really even know. I don't even remember, but like, so I had my flyers when we'd go to Paramount Ballroom and pass out flyers. And so that was like my very first experience, you know, in
What
that
was the name of
nightlife
your crew back then, the party crew? Just say it. Just say it. I had a weird one too.
Yeah. So it was four friends of ours were DJs, and we called ourselves the Jam Pack because it was
Jam Pack.
It was a Jam
That's
Pack.
pretty cool.
Yeah, and my DJ name was Obsession.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I tried to do
hilarious.
that. I went down that path and really enjoyed just going out at a very young age. I was probably like 14,
That's what
15.
everybody was doing back then.
Everyone
it
was
fun.
doing that.
And then if you were the promoter, you were like the cool guy. So it was like
You're the cool guy. So immediately you had to figure out how to become that person. And I could always walk into a party with the Creator Records or something. And I wasn't always the best DJ. I didn't really. I had all the stuff. Like I bought the turntables and I had a speaker, a Serwin Vega, and I started gathering all that stuff. But like I had never really like naturally was like, you know, like just a good DJ. Like I had friends that were like drummers and stuff, and so they understood like the
patterns,
technique better. And they could flow, man. And for me, it was like practice. I could do an entire set, but it was like practice. You know, I couldn't freestyle any of that stuff. But I got a taste for it. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I did it for a lot of years, and it put me through school, through college.
That's crazy, dude.
And so I did that pretty much the entire time I was going to college. And then once I graduated, obviously I stopped. I already got married. I had started a family, bought a house, did the whole...
Did you meet your wife through one of those party crews? Was she in another party crew?
No. She was not. She was not. I met her through a good friend of mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he introduced us. Going out to those parties, though. I'm saying like parties that I was throwing or whatever, but not necessarily... She wasn't necessarily part of that world.
Because they had all those funky names, too. The girl groups had like...
They did.
Oh,
awesome names.
Yeah.
But where was I? I don't remember.
No, you were going into, like, after you graduated and you stopped doing all the parties, and how did you get to the Army Corps of Engineers?
Right. Yeah, at some point, I ran into a friend that I went to high school with at a party that I was throwing, and he was telling me that he got a job as a draftsman at the Army Corps of Engineers, and I just, like, asked him, like, dude, please get me a job. That sounds awesome. And it was a co-op program. So they would let you make your work schedule around your school schedule, and you had to maintain at least a half-time status at school. So that's why I was always in some like JC. But it worked out really, really well for me. I mean, it really helped out. And so he got me the job, and then I became a computer-aided draftsman and did that for a lot of years while I was going to school. And I got a really good
footing
sample, I guess, of like what it would be like to be an engineer. And I already knew halfway through my school career that I didn't really want to do this. You know, as soon as I'm done, I kept telling myself, because I was like through my 20s, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to go buy a bar. I'm going to...
So you were going to school...
being naive, thinking that it would be that easy.
But wait, you're going to school to get this... Or you did the job to go to school, and you're doing all that. You already had your degree. I'm confused now.
I had my degree from Don Bosco.
Yeah,
an AS degree from Don Bosco.
Okay.
So now I was going to go to Cal Poly and get my engineering degree, construction management degree.
But the whole time you were like, fuck this. I'm doing this.
Yeah, the whole time I was like, I'm going to get back to what I was already doing. And at some point I'm going to have a nightclub. And I'm going to have a bar, etc. And I really did think that it would be that easy. So as soon as I'm done with this and I put this in my back pocket, and I make my mom happy, my dad happy, and you got your degree and whatever, it's like, okay, this isn't for me. I'm going to go back to doing what I really, really enjoyed doing. And but then I got a job. Like, you know, you go through the process. So the next step is now you got to start applying or whatever. And I applied, and I got a really good job. And it was like a small, like family-owned construction company. And I ended up staying there for about 7 years before I got to a point where I was like, oh, man, like I'm really I keep doing better, in terms of like, you know, the American dream, right? You know, you got a nice work truck, you got a good salary, I got my house, my white picket fence. Like, there's no reason to like shake this up.
Yeah.
But I just got to a point where I was like, I just at least want to try it. I'll go back to this if I need to go back to this. And they left an open door for me. But I think I started to imagine, because now I had been talking about it for a decade already, telling people got tired of hearing that I'm going to own a bar one day. My friends are like, yeah, we know. We know you're going to open a bar. We got it, bro.
Oh, dude, that's
you know
awesome.
what I mean? And
yeah.
so, but it got to a point where I was like, all right, I either got to just do this, kind of that burn your bridges or burn your ships metaphor, where there's no return, there's no way back. I resigned. I told the owners of the company that I bought a bar in Boyle Heights, and I was going to go give that a shot. And it wasn't true. I didn't own a bar. I didn't have it. I was trying to negotiate buying this bar, the Metropolitan, what it was called back then, at that time. But I really felt like, man, I was every 1 month she was selling it to me. Yeah. The next month she wasn't, and that just went on for a year.
You were coming in here just getting drinks and trying to get.
I was just coming in, just like filling it out, and just like sitting in here having a couple cans of Tecate and just hanging out and just imagining. So I had so much time in this space a year prior to coming in off and on to daydream about what I wanted to do and the way I would change things and what have you. So that was part of this process. So I resigned, and we also sold our house, our very first house that we bought. We owned it for a few years, and market went crazy. Decided we're going to sell this, and I'm going to open up my business. And I wasn't at that time. I wasn't even thinking of doing a bar, because I kind of already had not given up on it, but I realized like now how expensive it would be, how much I'd have to have in order to buy a bar, and I didn't have it. So I kind of gave up on that idea and started going, but I knew I wanted to have a business. I knew I was like at a point where I was like, I need to do my own thing. Like this company I'm working for right now is really cool, but I kind of feel like I'm capped out. And if I want more, I'm going to have to do it on my own. Like I can't do it through this channel. And I'm sitting here watching the owners do great. Like we're making good money in construction. And I mean, there's a little bit of envy, I guess, that goes on, where you're kind of like, man, I just made this company this much money and I'm getting this, which is cool. But again, you have to come to that realization that either you become like bitter, or you take a risk on your own.
Well, you realize what it is to be a business owner, like, because that happened to me when I was working at a company downtown where I was getting paid a decent amount, but I was also like in a position where I was able to see all of the accounts, and I was able to see how much they were billing for my position.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy fuck, they're billing this much for me, but paying me X amount out of that. And I was like, wow, that's a huge difference that the company gets,
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
So.
And it was very similar for me too, where, again, I had no reason to complain. Like everything was going well in terms of like that path of like American dream, But again, at some point I just was like, I just need to try stuff on my own and to get back to where I said, and do what I said I was going to do once I got my degree. It took 7 years. So 7 years at that place, and then I just resigned, and then really took a pretty big risk in this one spot. But eventually it all worked out, and I got my opportunity to, I guess, express, just the ideas that I had, and how I don't know, it was a very unique situation for me, because I went in such a different route, like where everything was so logical, engineering, like just very, like programmable. I feel like, there was no creativity necessarily. And I come from, I feel like, a really creative family, there's a lot of really talented artists. My uncles are really, really good at that stuff. So I was really influenced by them. And as a kid, I'd sit there and sketch all the time. Like I like to be myself and kind of lose myself in art and all that stuff. But I think at some point, like everything else, when you go to school, like you're told, no, you're this, you're that, you're good at this,
you get assigned to something,
You get assigned to that. And my art dreams were crushed, I guess. I didn't draw that apple accurate enough or something. I don't know what it was. But you kind of like, get diverted. And I kind of felt like I got diverted into that side of me. I guess I'm always like, I feel like I'm really good at balanced in terms of like creativity and my logical side of my brain, but I didn't really get a chance to like express that. So when I came here and I had this opportunity, I just like let loose on that other side, you know?
This became like your sculpture in a way, right?
In a lot of ways, yeah.
You redid the entire inside of this from the floor to the ceiling.
The entire thing.
Yeah. It's a big, I'm gonna say, sculpture, mosaic, like.
Yeah, you know, and the thing is that like
painting project. I
had prior to getting to this corner here, I spent a good year in downtown LA. This was back in like 2004, around that time.
Yeah, when it was starting to pop.
Yeah, Said Moses had just opened up his bar called the Golden Gopher, and I got invited to go to the soft opening, kind of indirectly, like I was going to go somewhere else, but we decided to meet there first, and I was going to get picked up. It was like a friend's bachelor party or something that I didn't want to miss. Yeah. But I also wanted to see what was going on here because I was always obsessed with downtown LA, and I'd always drive around going, what about this building? Like, what about, you know what I mean? Thinking it would be that easy. Like, this is where I want to do it. Now I just got to go apply for the liquor license and you know. But I was obsessed with downtown LA. And then so when he did this, I said to myself, like, all right, I'm going to go to the bachelor party, but first I'm going to come check this out. And I was blown away. I mean, first of all, walked in at a time where there was nothing really going on. The nightlife in downtown LA just wasn't there. I'm sure there was things going on, but it wasn't like anything like we know today.
No, that was like the first.
That was the
first. Besides like Bar 107, or maybe Bar 107 was there, but it was a different. It was a different
Bar
owner.
107 wasn't there. It was Score at that time. Score was it was a gay Latino bar.
Yeah.
And I know that because I got to explain this. I know that because so after the Golden Gopher, I set out and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do something similar to this where I remember the very first time walking into the Golden Gopher and just being blown away because I just did not expect. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that kind of level of detail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like someone could have just went in there and said, hey, you know, we're opening up. We're going to nice paint job, whatever, and open up, and I'm sure it would have just been just as good. But the guy that designed that place, man, he really did not miss any square inch of that place.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I was inspired by that, and I said, I always felt like downtown LA, you know, was the spot, and that it would come back and whatnot. So I started pounding the pavement and going to. I ended up plotting out. I printed out a map and I printed out all the liquor licenses that existed in downtown LA, whether they were type 47 or type 48 or beer and wine or whatever in different colors. And I had this whole thing, and then I just started pounding the pavement for an entire year. And I'd go around pretending like I had the money to buy a bar. You know what I mean? Like I didn't know what I was getting into, but that's the way I learned the market. Is I would go and sit and tell the owner of La Cita that I wanted to buy his place. You know?
Really?
Yeah, I sat there with him and his wife, and you know,
awesome,
and at the time, like he kind of told me like this because they owned the property. He's like, "This is how much I want for the property, and this is how much I want for the business, and what have you." And
he was willing to sell for the right price, right?
Oh yeah. It was. I mean, there wasn't like there was a sign or whatever, but at that time, it was just all like talking to different bar owners. I heard so and so might be interested in selling, so that's what I did, and then eventually I ended up at Score because I went to what's the name of the Irish bar that's like that downstairs on Grand?
O'Reilly's something.
Yeah, that bar. Yeah. And
O'Reilly's.
And the owner happened to be there. O'Reilly's. So I went down there and the owner was there, and he had just bought this place a few months prior, and he told me, he's like, I heard that the owner of Score is selling it. I was like, cool. That was all I needed. Yeah. And so then I just started to stalk that place, you know what I mean? And like try to find the owner. And that was like impossible because anytime you go to anywhere and you're like, hey, I want to talk to them. Who are you? Like, who are you? Immediately you're suspicious. Everyone's suspicious of you. So long story short, I negotiated with that owner and thought I was going to buy that bar. Like he really was like, it's yours pretty much. But I'm also liquidating other assets, and he had nightclubs in West Hollywood, in the Philippines,
Wow.
Canada, and he was already in his 70s.
What was this guy's name?
I don't remember his name. I don't remember because our interactions were kind of like spread out because he was constantly leaving the country to go liquidate his Philippine nightclub or what have you. And so then at some point I really thought I had it. He pretty much told me, yeah, and then a month went by or something, and I was already there designing the place, bringing people over. This is what I'm gonna do here, this is what I'm gonna do there. And he calls me one day and he tells me, he's like, hey, I just want to let you know I got an offer that was like $100,000 more than yours, and I already accepted it. It's just we were arguing about a $10,000 gap, trying to get to some agreement, and it didn't work. So he that's when it became Bar 107. That's why when I was like, no, I know that space. I really obsessed over that space, and I really had a design down for there, but it wasn't anything like I was going to do here. Yeah. Over there, I was like, okay, this is building, this is the history of it, this is the way it this is kind of the, the architecture of this, the era. So I'm going to do a bar that kind of brings that back, like what it would have been like when this bar was brand new, and I don't remember what I was going to call it, but I had that already designed, and then that fell apart. But in that process, a mutual friend of ours, Cesar Hernandez,
oh no way,
is still good friends with Sid Moses. But I wanted to like meet these people that were doing all this stuff, so he was introducing me to all the people that he knew, and then he was telling me, he's like, I want to do a bar, but I want to do the Latin Playboy. on Brooklyn, right? And that was right by my other grandma's house, my mom's mom, and so I was familiar with that area, and there was a lot of neighborhood
bars. How many
bars.
people said they wanted to do something there,
but
nobody did anything.
No one did anything because no one wanted a neighborhood bar anymore. Like they already had gone through so many decades of that as soon as they were closed, there was no turning back. And after Mothers Against Drunk Drivers came out, that was a mission. It became like political, equity, I guess, to like say I closed that bar and I closed that bar, probably for all the right reasons. I'm sure it was it was just problematic. But I was like, dude, there's no way. Like, there's no way you're going to reopen up that place. Yeah. Let me find you a place. I'm going to find you a spot. If you really want to do it, I'm going to find you somewhere. And I ended up finding this place. And I ended up, seeing the project that was going on at the time. They were still building out the metro. There you go. You do it. And the Serenata was jumping.
Serenata was amazing.
Lunch and dinner was packed. You had to have a reservation. I mean, I was blown away by their business.
The service there was like nothing else.
It was incredible. Yeah. It was incredible. Their service for sure, the food, the whole thing. The owner was always there, checking every plate that came out. So I kind of just started stomping around here, and I told him Caesar, you got to come down here and check this place out. I found your spot, but I want to do this with you. I want to do this here. And so he did. He came down and the whole thing. And
Popo.
In the end, I guess he just wasn't really ready, And I was like, dude, I'm gonna make an offer. I want to try to get this place for you in. And he was like, no, I'm gonna pass, And I was like, all right. And that's one thing that slowed me down a lot too, is that I always wanted to do a business with someone else. Yeah. I wanted to keep my day job, and I wanted to have the business too. You know what I mean? Like you want to ease into it, And if you fail, you don't fail by yourself. You're like, hey, we fucked up. It was our fault. And so, but I just knew, I felt this connection with the space, and I was like, well, I'm gonna move forward. And he's like, yeah, go for it. But it wasn't. I didn't set out necessarily. It wasn't it wasn't in my radar. It wasn't. I had no idea.
It called you.
I had no idea about this whole the metro and the ideas that the CRA had at the time. The Community Redevelopment Agency. They were posted across the street. So I learned a lot in that process of their plans for this area, at least for the immediate. What their development was going to be like.
You opened before the metro opened?
Yeah, I opened in September of 2006. The first time, the first time.
Oh, now you have 3 openings. Wow.
3 openings. Let me see. So I got shut down.
Dude, that's crazy.
I know. I got shut down in, we opened in September of 2006, and then I got shut down in January.
Metro came in 2009.
They came in 2009. So, yeah, it was...
oh, yeah, when I did
brutal.
the light rail bar crawl when it first opened.
You did?
Yeah, and I think that was the first time I stopped here. I'm not sure, but we did a bar
What was that
crawl.
like? How did you, like, how would... I'd love to get your perspective, because I don't think I've ever... Like, the very first time you came through the door, what was your impression, or what did you, like... did you hear about it beforehand, or no?
Yeah, I don't think that was the first time I came in here, because the first time I came here was with a friend of mine, and it was early. It wasn't late at all. I don't know if you used to open earlier, but it wasn't like late in the night.
No, yeah, we did. We opened up like at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, it was.
We tried every hour.
And so that's when I was like wine connoisseur guy.
Yeah.
And I heard about this place, and you had the wine and cheese line underneath it.
Right.
And I came with a friend of mine, Coral, and we sat down. You used to have the little tables where you could sit.
Little,
you remember you had the little tables where the dance floors? You used to have a little table with chairs, so you could have like a table for two kind of a thing.
Right.
And you brought out the wine and the wine list. You had wine lists that we could pick from. And I remember asking you, like, what kind of cheese do you You literally ran out to get some cheese. It came back because you were like, no, we don't really have cheese. It's just a joke.
Well, that was the thing.
But you actually like took the time to go get some just to like make us laugh or whatever.
Right,
but it was funny, but...
Yeah, that part of it never really did work out. We did try it for a minute, like where we had a little panini grill or something, and we were making little quesadillas or something so that we could be the wine. But it was like when I opened up, I spent so much time just renovating the space and got so obsessed and consumed with that.
Yeah.
That by the time it came to open the doors, I really wasn't ready for that part either. I didn't have a staff yet, and I knew what I wanted to call it, obviously, and it was a beer and wine license, which I wasn't necessarily going after, and I wasn't a wine connoisseur or anything. So I was like, well, I like the connotation of a wine bar as opposed to just a bar or a cantina or whatever. It kind of, I don't know, just has a better ring to it. So that other phrase about wine bar, Queso, was more a play on Ike, right? But then it was like Ike and then so.
Queso.
So now somehow we're going to get the cheese in here. We're going to make this all make sense. Yeah. But it didn't really last because we were, as we were getting busier and we were trying to do the quesadillas for customers, bullshit, they were just like spilling over the panini grill because we were just distracted by the drinks and whatever, everything else we were doing. And so we just threw that out the window, and we got busier and busier, and we never really, for a minute, we were still doing, like, we'd bring in, like, little packs of cheese, and somebody bought a bottle, we'd give you, a spread of cheese, and so we did do that as long as we could during happy hour. And then eventually that phased out. As soon as we just started doing the shows and started getting really busy, it was like, okay, this is what we need to focus on. And then the queso part, Alan turned it into... and when people would ask him about it, he was like, "It's puro chisme." So that after that, we kind of like found a way to explain the queso part, and we never really looked back, and we never really. I mean, we probably should be doing that now, but
I think. Well, after the first time that I came and me and my friend had a good time, and it was literally just us and you.
I remember that. I remember when you first came.
You were fun, dude. Like, it was fun being there, and it was like it was a good time.
Yeah, it was exciting.
And I always tell people this story, that the next time I came, there was a big line, and I was in line, and you were coming. You were like just showing up. You're like, "Oh, Rafa, come on!" And you took me out of the line. You took me inside.
Yeah.
And I never waited in line.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so, like, for that, thank you. Because remember, I used to walk in here just like fucking big old lines, and I'd come in here with shorts, and you wouldn't let people. It was a dress code, but here comes Rafa with shorts and a fucking...
Yeah, you always wore shorts. I don't think you owned pants back then.
Oh, I loved wearing shorts, but I still love wearing shorts, but, I'm just a little older now, so I guess I have to wear pants every once in a while.
Be an adult.
But, man, just like the not waiting in line thing was, like, the best, because I hate lines. And I think if that hadn't happened, I would have hardly ever come here, because I'm not like a line kind of a person.
Yeah, I hate line. I hate standing in line. And I hate dress codes. So that it took a while. I mean, it was a long time.
But you didn't know this was going to happen.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen. We're just trying different things to see what would work. What I did know that I wanted to do was cabaret shows.
Yeah.
I knew that. And that's pretty much what brought the lines.
That was like the first major hit, right?
Yeah. Right. But I mean, with the bar was designed, the layout was designed. There's only so much I can do. It's a small little space, but with the low bar, because I wanted to do cabaret shows. Like before, I knew that for sure. I had gone to see a show in Hollywood at this place called 40 Deuce. It was owned by this guy Ivan Kane. Yeah. He's a Hollywood nightclub. Yeah, he's an actor, I think, and all that stuff. But I ended up at his place with my wife, and just had the best experience. Like I couldn't believe that we were in a bar. It's the same size. It's about maybe 1,000 square feet or something. It was a tiny little place, but they were putting on like Vegas caliber cabaret shows with 3-piece jazz band, and I was just like, holy shit. Yeah. I want to do this. Like this is, I want to do the Latino version of this, you know, but had that same impact. We were just like, we just experienced like that was crazy. And the same thing with I guess that first experience of walking in. When I walked in the Golden Gopher, and I was just like thrown back. I was just like, I couldn't stop staring at every screen.
The attention to detail.
And I was like, I'm doing that.
And here,
So when I pretty much got priced out of downtown LA, because that happened really quick around that time. Like 2000, after the Golden Gopher opened up, everybody and their mothers was like looking for every place. Because what happened was like, I'd walk into a place and they'd say, hey, I'm looking I want to buy this place, whatever. I want to see how much. Well, it's not for sale, but what's going on? Like people would ask, like, what's going on? Like you're like the third person that's come here asking about this. So people that weren't necessarily, had no idea about that spark, I feel like, for nightlife and for what downtown has become, I really do feel like happened there. And so I at least wanted to give people that same experience as when they walk through the door. Yeah. And it's just unexpected, I guess, like just above and beyond. And it kind of felt like it set the stage for the way I felt about what we were doing and the way we were going to express our Mexican Americanness, you know, came from like that kind of motivation. So, and I think that was like the funnest part in the early days is just sitting back and watching people walk in for the first time
and be blown away
and seeing them transform. And then I'd hear their stories, you know, they were like, oh, I'm here because, you know, my prima's, it's her birthday or something. And I grew up in this area, you know, and we moved out at a certain time and they told me where it was at. And I was like, what? You're going to have your birthday where? Like, no, what? Okay, you know, it's my family. I'm going to go. And so a lot of very similar stories like that where people are familiar and then already coming with this, like, we're going to say happy birthday, whatever, we're going to walk out. And people, I would see like that, like people would just like drop their guard, like once they came in. And then I started to, you know, I experienced the same thing, you know, where when I would introduce myself, sometimes I'd say, my name's Guillermo, or sometimes I'd say, my name's Guillermo. You know what I mean? Like it was, and I felt that same kind of like, people were kind of like, hey, I don't have to have the perfect American English, you know, like try to eliminate as much of my, I don't know, like when you're because we were getting a lot of, in the early days, we were getting a lot of professionals. Like there was a lot of people coming from the city.
People used to come in here with suits.
There was a lot of people from the state, a lot of Serenata customers and whatnot. That's what was going on. And so I kind of felt like there was a lot of people kind of were going like, hey, yeah, they were expressing more of their, I guess, Latino or Mexican side and not having to like try to, I don't know, Americanize everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that definitely was a goal, is like to have a place where we could continue to explore that Mexican American. Like it's just such a, you know, a wide spectrum because, and you're never going to get it right. You know, you're never going to get it right. You're never going to be Mexican enough or you're never going to be American enough. It just depends. Dude. So you just got to end up doing it your way and you're going to get criticized either way.
I'm not Mexican enough. I'm not Cholo enough in some places. Right. I'm not Chicano enough in some places. I'm not Latinx enough in some places. You know, but I'm definitely not American enough in a lot of places. And so it's like wherever you go, people are fucking whatever. And I have a very distinct look, so I get a lot of different, you know, bullshit like that. But I want to go back to what you said earlier about how you wanted Vegas style like shows and shit, because some of those shows you used to have, I haven't been here lately, but I know that like when you would have the burlesque and when you would have the mariachi, it was so big, you know, the place is tiny.
Yeah.
and the shows were so big, and you can't help but feel like you're part of it because they're literally on top of you. Like you never get to see mariachi like that, where you're literally like, you know, fucking trumpets in your fucking face and shit.
Yeah. There's no avoiding it. Yeah, you're getting caught up in it.
It's exactly, and that's what happens here. I think, well, the way that I remember it is that every night, like at about 1 a.m., when the place was already packed as fuck, it would get into this point of like everybody would come in, they do their little things here and there. It's like a synchronicity thing that happens in physics.
Yeah.
Where things start bouncing around in different ways.
Quantum.
But after a while, they all start bouncing at the same time. And like by 1 a.m., the whole fucking place is just like bouncing.
Right.
1:30 to 2 o'clock, forget it.
Yeah.
That's like the insanity hour where people are like, fuck it, last call, and we're going to fucking yell, and we're going to dance here on this table or whatever. Like, it's already 1:30. What are they going to do? Kick us out? Like, you know, it just goes wild, dude.
That was the hard part, was having to close at 2 o'clock, and everyone was like, what? Like,
yes, there was always like this gradual fucking elevation right there. And that's also credit to your DJs, because you had fucking amazing DJs and knew exactly what to do, like at the right moment.
They did, and that's what I'm saying. I think everything just kind of like lined up for everybody, because the DJ that I had first started with was Chris Morales, and I had met him like a couple years prior in a backyard. It was my comadre's birthday, and he was a DJ. And it was the first time I'd ever experienced Serato, you know, where they were just with their computer and so I just stood by the DJ and listening to this guy mix. I was like so blown away by what he was doing that I got his card and I kept it and knew exactly where it was, because when I open up my bar, I'm going to call this guy, and this guy's going to be able to do what I want him to do. And so that's the way it happened. I called him up, and he was the first DJ, and then he got his uncle in here, which is Jesse Morales, and then so eventually Chris kind of faded out, and Jesse kind of took over the music, and I would stand next to him, you know, while he was playing, and we were just trying different things. Like, how about if you go from, you know, whatever the song was playing, some American song or European song, whatever, and try and mix that into, you know, you do your thing, but I'm saying try to mix it into something in Spanish. And then he was having a great time, because they came from the nightclub world where everyone was trying to play the same songs, the same hits over and over again. People were getting upset with you if you went outside of, you know, a certain genre and that kind of stuff. And he was like, here, you could do whatever you wanted. So they got an opportunity to express their Mexican Americanness, you know, and I think we had the best time doing that. Listening to a song go from English to Spanish, and then it almost being like seamless, because everyone that was here, it wasn't like people were going like, wow, what just happened? What is this? You know, it was just like,
everybody that was here got it.
Everybody just got it. And I think that there was a lot of that. I think that's where we all kind of came together, where you're describing that kind of like that energy that would happen, is that I don't remember experiencing a lot of places that you can go to that were catering to Mexican Americans. It was either you go to a Mexican place or you go to an American place, you know, but in my experience, I don't remember very much of that. And so when I got the opportunity to do this here, this place, like I mentioned before, was the Metropolitan. They were building the Metro. And at the time, the trend was also that people were buying neighborhood bars. That was happening in Eagle Rock and anywhere. Like, everyone was just like converting their bar in LA, their local bar, into a hip little spot. So I'm doing my research, and I would pick up LA Weekly or whatever magazines were around at that time, and everyone kept talking about this Eastside restaurant and this Eastside bar, and all of them were Silver Lake and that way, right? Los Feliz. And I was like, shit, I never knew that was the East Side. I really, at the time, was kind of like, I guess I was just in my bubble, and I didn't realize that the East Side expanded that way. Right? So it was, and the trend was that everyone was restoring the history of that neighborhood bar and calling it that. And so I already had that, you know what I mean? And the Metro's being built, so it was like logical to just be like, hey, El Metro, you know, like we'll keep calling it El Metro or El Metro or whatever. And so one of the hardest things I had to do was to not use that name, I guess, and come up with Eastside Luv, which I just felt would express what I was going for. You know what I mean? Like to really try and because one thing that anytime that I told anyone what I was up to, friends and family,
you're crazy.
They were just like,
you're fucking
you
over there. Why?
To go open up a bar in
Here?
Boyle Heights? Are you going to pat everybody down? Like, what are you going to do?
It didn't look like it looks now either.
It didn't look like it looks now either. And so that was always one of the main questions was like, are you going to pat people down? Like, you know, and I was like, no, I'm not going to pat people down. Like, we didn't pat people down at our house parties or at our warehouse parties that we used to do. I met so many amazing people. Like, everyone, there would be fights or what have you, but like anywhere. But it wasn't like, if you watched a movie or the news, you always got one side of the experience on the east side was dangerous. Yeah, it's like, get out of there. You know what I mean? And so I said, no, I'm not. I wouldn't even bar. Why would I even open up a bar if I didn't trust my own customers? Like, no, that's not what we're doing. That's not what I have intend. You know, that's not my intention. So, no, that's out of the question. I'm not doing that. And that kind of, I really feel like, I don't know, just set a precedence for the way people behaved here. Yeah. You know what I mean? They weren't being treated that way. And and when I started to design like this space, just the aesthetic of it, I didn't want to hold back at all. You know, just because it's like, hey, well, I don't need to spend the same amount of money that I was going to do that other. So I was going to turn SCORE into this other place, and I was going to make it like this Art Deco style bar, and I was going to spend this much on the countertop, and blah blah blah. And I had this whole, you know, and I was like, I'm going to take that same budget, and like intensity, and bring it here and express. Because before I was like, what is it like? What is that art? I was trying to put myself into what it would be like to be in someone else's, you know, I guess someone else's time, someone else's culture, someone else's. And then when I got the opportunity like to do it here, that's what excited me, was like, man, how many different ways can we do this? You know what I mean? Like, even if it's just the name of a drink or the poster, the movie posters that, you know, in the back of the little stage that we've got, like how many different ways can we express this? You know what I mean? Like, try to make it look like a bungalow inside, like you're inside someone's house, because that's kind of the stage I wanted to set too. You know, it's like, hey, you're home. You know, and
I want to push forward a little bit now. I want to ask you just a little bit about like after the pandemic and how you're doing now, and where do you want to take it to the future? After the scamdemic,
we reopened,
or whatever you want to call it.
You said it. We reopened in March of 2022. And I reopened, honestly, reluctantly. You know, like I hadn't opened in 2 years. I felt very detached.
Everybody was like, "Where's Willie? What's wrong? Why isn't he opening?" I was like, "He told me he's gonna open when he's ready." Like,
I honestly, because I think they gave us the green light to open up. I couldn't open because I didn't have a kitchen. So that was a technicality of why it was too dangerous. Is you're not serving food and you can't make your living, right? So that's pretty much.
You're not essential.
The position that I was in. And then so as soon as they lifted that and said you can open, I gathered my staff, and we intended to open up in August. And what was that, 2021?
Yeah.
And so that was the plan. And then shortly after that, towards the end of August, I think the city announced that they're going to do the vaccine passport, right? And I wasn't going to do that. I didn't want to do that because at that time I already knew. We all knew. I mean, it was a fact that it wasn't stopping transmission. So I was like, well, then why am I going to stop people from coming into this space? I'm not going to separate people. I'm not going to participate in that. Yeah. And so I felt very. I don't know. I felt like an outsider now. You know what I mean? Like I kind of sheltered myself, I guess, in places for like 2 years. I didn't really do very much, but stay home and kind of watch like 2 more weeks. Like, when is this? You know, and in the meantime, I'm gathering debt. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it was a very challenging time, obviously, for all of us. Yeah. So I kind of got to the point where I was like, maybe I should just sell it because I'm not going to, someone else will want, you know, doesn't mind, you know, they don't mind doing showing the, hey, let me see your papers or whatever, come inside and have a drink. So I'll just find that person, and they'll be able to continue whatever they want to continue here, you know. And I'm done. I'm out. And then all of a sudden,
actually talking about maybe quitting even before the pandemic.
I was going to sell the bar just about every year that I was open. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get to a point where you're just like, all right, I had enough.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to go open up another bar. I'm going to do another design. I'm going to do blah, 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 get going. And I'm going to...
Yeah, you wanted to get into other businesses. You didn't want to stop
The creation
working,
part of it was the fun part. Turned out managing the bar day to day was not necessarily what I wanted to do. So I've contemplated selling, expanding to other bars, whatever. But I've never gotten attached to any physical space. I've sold the first house that we bought after a few years, like I was telling you earlier, so I could get money to do my own business and that kind of stuff. So I've never really been attached to a space. And so now fast forward to having a very legitimate reason to saying, okay, enough is enough. I've already done this for, at that time, I think 15 years. I'm ready. And so I put that out there, but it's not like you can, put a for sale sign in the front and it gets on an MLS and someone comes in. It's all word of mouth. And then all of a sudden, at the beginning of 2022, they announced that they're lifting that, and that was no longer going to be a requirement to check passports, vaccine passports. So I said, well, that was the only thing holding me back. Yeah. And we reopened since then. And I feel like, in a lot of ways, it feels like starting over again. Yeah. Obviously, our core customer has aged out of necessarily going out on a week-to-week basis. And so it's a matter of like trying to reconnect with like the people that maybe necessarily didn't see
anybody turning 21. Come down.
I don't know what you're...
Bring your birthday, people. 25.
Right. Yeah. So I reopened, kind of just saying, all right, I'm going to fill this out. I don't know what it's like out there anymore. I haven't gone out. I don't know if people are how they're going to behave once they start drinking, and everyone's already feeling so separated in a lot of ways, by design. And we'll see. I'm going to open up, and I'm going to turn on. I'm going to get DJs. I'm going to kind of I'm not going to do any of the shows anymore because I don't even know what the economy's like and whether people will pay for that.
You got to make some money first,
any of that stuff. So I feel like in a lot of ways, compared to what we were doing before, we're here. We're giving the same level of service and connecting with the people that continue to come out. But we haven't put on the shows that we used to put on, and I think that was a big reason. Why people are coming out from mariachi shows, the cabaret shows, and just doing live music, and there was always something going on, art shows and whatnot. Yeah. So I wish that we could get back to that. I'm trying to ease my way back into that, but also trying to a lot of bands disappeared, during that time.
Yeah, the fucking LA music scene got
I don't know what happened to
because of COVID. Yeah,
totally. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like. I don't know. I'm just little by little you start seeing. Just like I heard that the art walk in downtown LA was supposed to reopen.
Fire cadets.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like little by little things are starting to normalize a little bit because you remember how big the art scene was in downtown LA, the art walk and all that stuff, and it's like that's barely coming back.
Huge. It was like a fucking monthly fucking mess is what it was.
Inspirational, honestly, because they would take abandoned buildings and negotiate and do art galleries and stuff like that. And so, I don't know. I'd look at that and I'd be like, man, what happened? What happened to the art scene?
I forgot about that. I hadn't thought about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's little signs. I don't know. Yeah. It's been a year and almost 6 months now since we've reopened, and it looks like we're going to keep partying, so yeah. Try to get back to it.
Are you looking for bands, or if people hit you up?
I am.
Are you down?
I'm not really getting hit up like I was prior to, what did you call it? The scamdemic? I'm not, there's the demand isn't there. And again, there's a lot of live music, legitimate live music venues that can fulfill that for the few bands that did exist, because the few bands that still exist that made it through that lockdown are doing really well.
Yeah.
You know, and so those places
they're touring, and they're not even
yeah, exactly.
playing LA, but like once or twice a year.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what. Obviously, looking for.
Do you have an email or something people can reach out, or do people
you
reach
could
out?
email
Instagram, right?
info at eastsideluv.com.
Also for birthdays, right? If you're having a birthday, dude.
B-Day at eastsideluv.com.
And if you want a reserved table, you know, you can reserve your table. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to talk about?
Man, it's kind of dark already. I don't know if we could even. What do we get into?
No, it's cool.
No, not really. I mean, no. I think we just, it was very miscellaneous, and I apologize if I just kind of went.
No, I mean, this is how this is right here anyway.
It is.
I think it was perfect. I think you shared with us a lot of really good insight on what it is to, you know, own and operate a business, and to also, like, you know, make your own fucking dreams come true, which is fucking fun as hell if you're like somebody that's creative. Because like you said, like, I think part of your drive is the creative process, even though you're not making a painting or something, but you're making, like, you know, this whole thing is an art piece, you know.
Right.
If you've been in here, or, you know, if you haven't been here, come check it out.
That's definitely one thing that I feel like I didn't realize, but that design process really did wake up a whole nother side of me that I didn't really realize that, was in me, or that was that important to me. But I'm really into aesthetics. And I think that's why I did what I did in the bar. And like I was telling you before, I felt like maybe what I should do is get into opening up different concepts, different businesses, and not necessarily run them after a few years, sell them or what have you. But I really like the design process. And so I feel like that's what I want to get back into, even if it's for someone else. Like at this point, I've already gathered so much experience that I feel like I could walk someone through that process.
There's a lot of people with a lot of money that can use you.
Call me.
There's a question that we ask everybody at the end of each podcast.
What about that?
If a being from another planet, or just some kind of something, appeared in front of you and has seen everything that you did in your life and everything that you've been through, and how you made it through tough times and kept going and are still, you know, persevering, and they looked at you and they said, Guillermo Uribe, how do you do it?
Andando, patitas volando. Keep moving, one step at a time. You know, like it'll happen for you if you just keep on chipping away at your goals. You got to do it. It's better to regret something you did than something you didn't do. That really stuck in my head. I think it was like a Chili Peppers line, and they were quoting someone else. I forget, but that really stuck in my head, and that really did move me forward. Where I was like, hey, you know, like it's okay to try things and fail. Like get out there and fail.
And it doesn't matter how old you are. Walt Disney started Disneyland at 52.
True story.
Cheers, brother.
We're kids.
Gracias.
We're still kids.
Thank you for your time.
Salud. Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week.